Hi! In this 4-part tutorial I'm gonna show you how to create this looping ocean of pencil animation. In this first part we're gonna create the scene, the looping animation. In the second part we're gonna model the pencil. In the third part we're gonna texture it, and in the fourth part we're gonna render the animation. So stick around if you wanna see how it's done. So first, go ahead and just obliterate the default cube and everything else with it. Add the plane. Maybe name this one scene. Always name your files. You're gonna thank me later. And extend this one a little bit to make it like not square. And it doesn't really matter how much for now. Add the loop cut in the middle so we have two square faces, and then subdivide it until you have 461 words, because we're gonna put the pencils on the words, so we want 461 pencils basically. So after that, add a basic shape which is gonna be our pencil. Pencils are hexagonal. I already added like 6 words, so if you have more here, then just change this one to 6, so you have a hexagon. And then scale it down S, and then restrict the scaling to the Z axis, which is Shift Z. Doesn't matter how much for now, but you know, just a good amount. Move this out of the way a little bit. So now we're gonna apply the particle system. Just create a new particle system and go down to render. Change that to object, and then select the cylinder that you created earlier. And then I'm gonna have to change it to hair and tick advanced and tick regrowth. Regrow is important. I'm not sure what it does, but if you don't check it, then when you start animating, the particle is gonna fly around and change size and do some weird stuff. So just make sure to enable regrow, and then enable rotation and go to global Z or just global Y. Yeah, whatever works, whatever makes them, you know, stand up. And as for the source, you're gonna have to use words and uncheck random order. And now you see that there's like 1,000 particles, and we need 561 exactly. So just enter that number there. Nothing changed, because if I have 1,000 here, some of the particles are overlapping each other, and that's gonna create some weird visuals in the rendering. So just make sure you have 561, or you know, as many vertices you have on your plane. So now we want to scale up the particles a little bit to be as close to each other as possible, which is in the render settings, and just scale it up. You know, just make it touch, but not exactly, almost. Or you know, however, whatever makes you happier, you know, just do that. And now you see that there's this weird gap between the pencils. So we want to have them like shift every second row around, so it's like perfectly fits. Which we're gonna and also you can see that there's like this weird space here. They are almost touching, but there's this weird space here, and that one you can adjust by adjusting the plane on the x-axis. But as you can see, if I tab into edit mode, the particles disappear. So this is where actually it's gonna be handy to use the, I'm just going to turn off the particle system for a bit now. from the viewport. So this is where actually instancing is gonna come in handy. So select your object that you want to instance, go to words, and then shift select the plane, and then parent the object. And it didn't work because you have to click on words again. So parent the object to the plane, and now you can see we have like a working even if we tab into edit mode, we still see this, so we can, you know, adjust accordingly. So tab into the edit mode of the plane, and now we're gonna fix the weird spacing between the pencils. So just move them closer a bit, you know, until they are touching, but not just, and maybe even like adjust it on the y-axis, so they are close but not really touching. Yep, that looks about right. So now we're gonna move or shift every second row around, so we don't have these weird gaps anymore. Which I'm pretty sure there's a better way to do it, but yeah, I'm just bad at this, so I'm gonna do it like manually. Now we're shifting everything and just moving closer. You know, just move it closer until they're like equal. You can eyeball it. It's fine. It's not gonna be. It doesn't have to be like super perfect. Yep. And now you have a nicely aligned pencils. Yeah, you can turn off the instancing, and then separate the parenting, which you can do with Alt P, and then clear and keep transformation. So now you can turn on the particle system again, and you can see that there's the same thing going on. And yeah, you're just gonna need to adjust. We're just gonna need to adjust the size again, because now it's a bit too big for the particle. So just size it down. And you know, it's pretty like flexible in terms of scaling, and you can scale it up a lot, you can scale it down a lot. You know, it's still gonna look good. But I like, in this particular case, I like to have it as close as possible, like almost touching, but not exactly. So somewhere like, yeah, somewhere there looks about right. So now that you have this set up, let's do the wave thingy, wave animation. And first we're gonna do so I'm gonna apply 2 displacement animations to it. One is gonna be like a big wave, and the other one's gonna be like a kind of a slow moving wave, just to add some variation to it. So first let's do the slow small wave animation, and we're gonna use some empties to do that. So add the plane axis, and then add for this one we're gonna use a circle, and then you have to follow path at the constraint and follow path, and for the path you put the Bezier curve there, and this one we want to go around the full circle, so go back to the initial position. And this is the time when you're gonna start thinking about, okay, how long the animation you want it to be, and because you need to put down some keyframes now. And usually I set it to cycles. I usually use cycles. And so for the end frame, usually I put 150 frames with 30 frames per second. So it's gonna be a 4-second animation. I just think that 120 frames can be easily rendered out, even if it takes like a couple of minutes to render for a frame. You can just leave it overnight and it's going to be rendered in the morning. Anything more than that, it's going to be, I think, too much, and anything less than that, it's going to be too fast for the loop. And I put 30 frames because I know the standard is 24, but I just think 30 frames, it's just a little bit smoother. It's not as smooth as 60, you know, like where it's like too smooth and it just looks weird because it's so smooth. But it's just a bit smoother than 24, and I think it just looks better. So I like 30 frames, but you can put whatever you want. So now let's go back to animating. So first frame, it's gonna be at in 0 point, and to make it loop, you always have to put the last frame of the loop on the one after the last frame of the animation. So 100% circle, it's gonna be on the one after the last frame of your animation. So you have to do that in order to loop it perfectly. So let's right click the keyframe and make sure the interpolation is linear. So as you can see now, if you take a look at this animation, it loops perfectly because we put the last keyframe one after the last frame of the animation. Like if you put it on the, if you move the last keyframe on the last frame of the animation, you will see that there's a little jump, just a little. It's not visible, but yeah, in order to loop it perfectly, you always have to like have the one after the last frame exactly the same as the frame one. So you can check, if we check frame one and we compare it to one of the last, it's in the exact same position. So that's what we want. So now let's add a displacement modifier. Put it above the particle system, and this is gonna be like the small waves animation. Oh yeah, I said name your things and I didn't name anything, but yeah, we can do it now. This is gonna be the pencil. This is the waves, let's call it waves, and the small wave driver and small wave path. Perfect. So we added a texture called small waves. Now let's go and edit that. For this one, we're going to use a cloud animation, and I think it's too big now, but in order to animate it, you have to add the texture coordinates to an object and parent it to the empty that's just looping. So now you can see it's too fast, and it's looping, but it's too fast, and the cloud is too big. So we have to increase the size. Sorry, it's too small. So increase the size until like you get like a watery effect. And yeah, as you can see, this is already, let's put it to 2. So this is already looking kind of watery, which is nice. Maybe even slow it down a little bit more. Size 3. Yeah, that looks alright. And it's looping nicely. Let's leave it at that for now. You're gonna have to put the direction to Z, so it only moves the particles on the Z-axis, up and down, nowhere else. And now let's introduce the big wave, for which we're gonna add another displacement map. Let's move it just above everything else. Let's turn off this one for now, the small waves. Create a new texture and name it big waves, or whatever, however you want to name it. And go into texture, and for this one we're gonna use an image that I actually created in Photoshop, and it's basically just like a gradient that goes from white to black and then from black to white again. Because how displacement map works is basically white parts of the image say to Blender to move things up, and the black part of the darker parts of the image will move things down. So having an image that goes from white to black and then from black to white, it's basically gonna create a wave. And for this one, I'm actually gonna use the image I created. You can create this image yourself. I think it's pretty easy in Photoshop if you want, but I also include a link down in the description if you want to download it. So let's just open it up. It's gonna be this wave map. Yeah, and as you can see, that's the image there, and it's like repeating on the x-axis. So, and for me now this is a bit too harsh, so let's just adjust. We can adjust these numbers quite a bit to get the effect that we want, but for now just turn it down a bit. And what I'm gonna do is, let's go into crop and just change the minimum X. I'm not really sure what this does, but it's gonna change like the map. It's gonna smoothen it out or make it, it's changing the scale on the x-axis basically, and just changing the how many waves are there, I guess. So let's put it to -2. Let's see how that looks once we set up. Or let's put it to 4, maybe. Yeah, let's do it as 4 for now. And to animate this, we're gonna have to add another empty. Move it out. And because we're gonna animate this on the x-axis, so basically we want the image to move on just one axis to make it loop, to be able to make it loop perfectly, we're gonna add a path. And then we're gonna do the same thing with this empty. We're gonna constrain follow path to the path, and then move it on the x axis, and now you can see it moves on this path from 0 to 100. So for now, let's put 0 on the first frame. Let's keyframe 0 on the first frame, and then put 100 on the 121 frame. And you will see now that it's gonna move way too fast. I'm sorry, we need to texture coordinates object and then parent it to the empty. And now you will see it's just gonna move way too fast, or not move at all for some reason. Okay, it's because we have to put it to minus 100. So keyframe the first, and then 121 to minus 100. So keyframe, and now it's moving. Make sure to have interpolation mode linear. And now you're gonna see if we parent it to the empty, it's gonna move, but it's gonna move way too fast. And we wanted to have it slower. So luckily, because the wave image displacement image texture is so simple, we can basically reduce this number here to have maybe just one loop of waves going through, and then it's gonna move way slower and still loop. So yeah, replace keyframe, and as you can see now it's maybe too slow. So we need to match up the first frame with the 121 frame. As you can see, we need everything a bit further. Maybe have it, maybe something like this. So there's this one line up. Let's try to match that like this, maybe. So replace the keyframe. Getting there. So let me just check the height of one of the pencils. So on so we need to go a bit up. As you can see on the 121 frame, if I go on the 121 frame, it's gonna be a bit shorter. So now we need to just move up just a bit, replace the keyframe, and maybe just a bit more up, like this maybe. So now, yeah, now it's like almost perfect, but it's not gonna be visible on the loop. We can test it out. So yeah, it looks perfectly now. And now we can go in and just adjust the displacements a bit, so this looks better. Maybe put this one a little bit higher so we actually see will see the color of the pencil. And now I think that there are too many waves, so let's remove spread them out a little bit. Yeah, maybe like this. And now we're gonna have to readjust the actually we're gonna have to readjust the keyframe on the driver, because now you can see it's not matching up. So let's go back and readjust that a bit. So first frame and then 121 frame. So this one or this one has to be in the middle a little bit. So maybe like this. Almost there. 121, a little bit to the back. Is that one? No. A little bit more to the front, actually. This. Yeah, a bit more. Place the keyframe and check again. Now it's too far. A bit more to the back. Yeah, and now it's perfect. So if you loop now, you can see it loops perfectly. And the waves are bigger. It looks nice. So what we can do now is to unhide this one. So now we can check the two together, how it looks. Yeah, maybe we will adjust these numbers once we model the pencil, but for now it looks good. Maybe just now you can actually let's hide the plane, which in the render settings you have to uncheck show emitter, and then also in the viewport display just uncheck show emitter there as well. And now you can just duplicate this one and move it in place, just as we did at the start of this video. And now you can like add as many as you want in any direction, and it's gonna be looping because the way it's using tileable textures. So it looks okay. It looks nice. And yeah, I think that's it for part 1. Yeah. Stick around for part 2 where we're gonna model the pencil. Thanks for watching.